Hello everyone, it's Seth, probably better known as Saffron Olive, and it's time for another Instant Deck Tech. So as you know, Monday means it's Modern Monday here in Instant Deck Tech land, and we have a super sweet list to check out today. So this is a brand new take on a really old archetype in Modern, Living End. So Living End has been floating around Modern for quite a while. It's been a tier deck at various times. It's a really powerful strategy. However, with the release of Amonkhet and a bunch of new cycling cards, the archetype has gotten a major facelift and really changed the way the deck plays to some extent. So this is 5-color Living End, brought to us by Hippies, who took it to a 5-0 finish in a competitive league on Magic Online. So congrats to Hippies on their finish with the deck. A quick reminder before we break down 5-color Living End for Modern. If you enjoy this deck and you want to see it made into videos, take a minute, click the like button, the subscribe button, leave a comment, anything you can do to support your deck, because whichever deck is most popular gets a shot at being made into videos next week. So 5-color Living End, like all Living End decks, is built around, you probably guessed it, the card Living End itself. So Living End is the time spiral, time shifted, whatever version of Living Death. So this is a card that gets back all the creatures from all graveyards. You get yours, I get mine. All the creatures on the battlefield go into the graveyard. So it kind of switches the zones. The problem with Living End is it doesn't have a mana cost, which means we actually can't cast it. So instead we have to suspend it, wait 3 turns, it's a lot of mana. It's just way too slow for Modern, but we have a trick that helps us get around this problem. So the trick to using Living End in Modern is to use Cascade spells. So this Living End deck, and all Living End decks, have 0 cards except for Living End that cost less than 3 mana, which means whenever we cast a Demonic Dread, a Violent Outburst, an Ardent Plea, we know 100% of the time we're going to Cascade into Living End, can cast Living End, which means instead of suspending it on turn 4, waiting 3 more turns, our opponent sees it coming, we're probably dead by then, we can get Living End right away as early as turn 2, because we even have Simian Spirit Guides to help us cast it earlier. That's the one and only purpose of Simian Spirit Guide, is just to speed up our Cascade spells and get Living End. So that's the plan of the deck, is on turn 2, on turn 3, maybe turn 4 at the latest, we're going to resolve a Living End, wipe away the board, get back all of our creatures. So the second piece of this puzzle is to fill our graveyard with creatures, and this is where the deck looks pretty different. So far the packages that we've seen, Living End, the Cascade spell, Simian Spirit Guide, that's pretty normal for Living End decks, but where it gets different is the creatures the deck is using to cycle to get into the graveyard to get back with Living End. So Street Race cycles for free, makes it really nice. It costs 2 life, whatever, we're planning on winning pretty quickly anyway. But you'll notice the other cards that cycle in this deck, the big thing here is they are all 1 mana, and that's the neat aspect of this deck, is it's sort of this all-in version of Living End. The downside is you gotta play 5 colors of mana, although when we get to the mana base you'll see the deck can definitely support it. But having exclusively 1 mana cyclers instead of 2 mana cyclers, sometimes land cyclers that cost 2 mana, that we've seen in the old versions of Living End, means that this deck very consistently can have at least 1 creature in the graveyard on turn 1 from cycling, hopefully 2 more on turn 2, and even on turn 2 with Street Race you can have more than that. So the idea is we're going to have a ton of creatures in the graveyard and be able to just win the game on turn 2 or turn 3. The rest of our cycling creatures, Deadshot Minotaur, Monstrous Carabid, are much like the rest of them, 1 mana cyclers. That's the big thing here. We're willing to stretch our mana into all 5 colors because we want everything to cycle for 1 mana. Horror of the Broken Lands is the other key cycler of this deck, and when I first saw this deck, I wasn't sure what the benefit was over traditional Living End. I was a little confused. I looked over the list, was thinking about it. One of the big things, as we mentioned, is the 1 mana cyclers. The other one is Horror of the Broken Lands is insane in this deck because it gives the deck a way to close out the game right away. So if you can cycle a Horror of the Broken Lands or 2, and then Violent Outburst at the end of your opponent's turn, you get back those Horror of the Broken Lands, you can attack immediately. If you can cycle a couple more cards, your Horrors are hitting for 6, then 8, then 10, and you can just win the game right away, so your opponent doesn't get a chance to untap in Anger of the Gods or Wrath of God or Supreme Verdict, and you just close out the game right away before your opponent can really react to what you're doing. The last main deck card, just Anger of the Gods, gives us a bit of removal against swarmy decks. Exiling's also nice. We don't want to kill our opponent's creatures and have them go in the graveyard, because then they get them back with the living end. As far as the mana base, Forbidden Orchard is probably the sweetest tech of the bunch, because we give our opponent spirits, but whatever, we are going to wrath away everything with living end anyway, so there's really no downside. It's just a free source of any color. Gemstone Mine, gonna run out of counters eventually, but when you're winning on turn 2 or turn 3, you don't really care that you can only use it 3 times. Mana Confluence Reflecting Pool takes advantage of the fact we have all 5 color lands, and then a couple of Spire Bluff Canals as the only non-5 color land in our deck. The sideboard is really dedicated to protecting our combo. So Leyline of the Void, as I mentioned before, one of the downsides of Living End is if your opponent can get creatures in the graveyard, they get them back. So if your opponent, I don't know, has Satyr Wayfinders or Grizzly Salvages or something, and can stock their graveyard, it's really bad for you. But Leyline of the Void, make sure that doesn't happen. You can play it for free on turn 0, and then any of your opponent's stuff will be exiled instead of going to the graveyard. The easiest way to beat Living End is to play Graveyard Hate. That is the solution. Play a Rest in Peace, play a Tormod Script, play a Relic of Progenitus, play your own Leyline of the Void. So Wear, Tear, and Lost Legacy are in the deck exclusively to deal with those problems. Anger of the Gods gives the deck a bit more removal, and then Gemstone Caverns, very interesting in the sideboard. If you are on the draw, it's super powerful and works kind of like a Lotus Petal. You can play it for free before the game opens. You're going to start your first turn with 2 lands on the battlefield, which really speeds up the cycling and the winning. And it can also just use it to be a extra land source. So if you think your opponent's going to be able to deal with your graveyard, the easiest way to win, even though it's not a great plan, is just to cast your stuff. So going up extra lands helps you do that as well. And that is 5 color Living End for Modern. And that's our instant deck tech for today. So thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, help us out by clicking that like button down below. And to keep up on all the latest and greatest, click that subscribe button. And don't forget to hit that bell icon to get alerts whenever we have new videos. And if you want to, check out some of our other sweet videos here and here.